Kishore sir, could we start?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, so ma'am, please give me a bit of time. Most respected distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Gudrun Doll-Tepper, Professor of Sports Science, Inclusive Education. Ma'am is a professor at the Department of Education, Science and Psychology at Freie University Berlin. She has written numerous articles on adapted physical activity and sport for persons with disability, physical education and sport pedagogy, as well as on issues related to women in leadership positions in sport. Her research interests include the inclusion of persons with disabilities in physical education and sport, the role of physical activity as part of healthy lifestyle, different approaches to talent identification sport, physical activity and sport in post-disaster intervention, as well as women in leadership position in sport and sports science. Dr. Doll-Tepper is a former president of the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, ICSPE, and since 2016, she is the honorary president of ICSPE. Since 2006, she's been the vice president of the German Olympic Sports Confederation, and since 2007, she has been a chairperson of the German Olympic Academy, Willi Daum. Since 2017, she's a chairperson of the German Sport and Olympia Museum in Cologne. Since 2008, she's a member of the IOC Commission on Women in Sport, and since 2015, member of the IOC Commission Olympic Education. In 2005, she received a Doctor of Law honors from Memorial University in Newfoundland, and in 2008, from Catholic University, Belgium. She was awarded with several prestigious international national awards, including the FIP Gold Cross of Honor of Physical Education and the Paralympic Order of the International Paralympic Committee. On behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Khelo India, Lakshmi National College of Physical Education, a warm welcome to the most distinguished personality and the most high-profile personality that we have here for this program. Ma'am, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to welcome Dr. Darlene Kluka, Dr. Rosa, Dr. Maria, Dr. D. Kishore, all the invited guests and the participants to this session. Ma'am, for your session, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me as part of your online classes. It's indeed a great honor and pleasure for me to be part of it. And I say a very warm welcome from the city of Berlin in Germany. I'm now sitting in my university, and I had to stay home for many weeks, but now I'm back in the office, and I'm really happy that I can be part of your online program. In your introduction, you said something about my international activities, but today I want rather to focus on physical education and sport in Germany. And I want to also share with you some of the historical and current developments. Don't worry, I'm not talking about sport 100 years ago. I will just focus on the situation during the last few decades. And I have shared with you also some facts and figures from sport in Germany. And to get an understanding of the situation in Germany, I would like to share this with you. Currently in Germany, we have approximately 83 million inhabitants. And a great number of our members in the sports section also, of course, starts at a very early age. It's very popular in Germany to be a member of a sport club. And therefore, we have 91,000 sport clubs in Germany. Sport club is something where almost everybody can join. A great number of it is nothing to need a lot of fee, but you can join at a very low fee. And many families, children, young people, but also elderly people. And therefore, we currently have, as members of our sport club, sport club is something where you can join. It's not, but you can join at a very low fee of a sport club. And we also We currently have on the activities of volunteers. Sport clubs in Germany are run by volunteers. That means that they do not earn money, but they do it and they give their leisure time, their recreational time, to be part as an instructor or to also hold management positions. When you introduced me, you also mentioned that I'm the vice president of the German Olympic Sports Confederation. That is a volunteer position. I do not get any money working as the vice president. The same is true being the chairperson of the German Olympic Academy. And that is just an example that a lot of people in Germany are active as volunteers, not only in sport, but also in other areas of society. So that, I think, is something that is really very important to mention. And as in many other countries, we have, of course, we had a National Olympic Committee for Germany, and we had the German Sports Confederation as an umbrella organization. And in 2006, this was really a milestone year for organized sport in Germany, because these two organizations merged into one. And they are now the umbrella for all sports, from recreational sport, sport for all, for elite high performance sport. That is the umbrella organization. And why was this done? Why did we merge two umbrella organizations into one big umbrella? Well, the main reason, of course, was that we had to reduce the number of committees. We had so many board meetings, and sometimes the same people had to meet, sometimes had this head and next hour another head. So we wanted to bring this together. We also wanted to make a clear separation between strategic and operational responsibilities. The staff in our organization is responsible for the operations, and the President's Committee is responsible for strategic planning. We also want to come to faster decisions and, of course, efficient forms of control and much better transparency. So the current situation is that we have as an umbrella for all sports in Germany, the German Olympic Sports Confederation. And we are also responsible sending teams, Olympic teams, to the Olympic Games. We also give advice and are in service, a service center for our member organizations. And of course, also, we are doing a lot of work in the area of sport for all and youth sport. Shall I put the next slides, or is someone doing this? So the main tasks currently are that we are promoting the Olympic movement, but we are also working very closely with international bodies like the International Olympic Committee, with the European Olympic Committees, and also other national Olympic committees. So currently we have the situation that we have 16 regional sports confederations. We have 66 Olympic and non-Olympic sport federations, and then also certain groups and organizations, for example, Physical Education Teachers Association, the Sports Science Association, etc. And they all together are the system of organized sport in Germany. One big pillar of our work, of course, is focusing on high performance sport. Winter sport, summer sport, but also talent promotion, talent identification, and talent development. But we also deal, of course, in the area of sport development in Sport for All. We have a very big focus on sport facilities, both indoor and outdoor. Prevention and health are giving great focus as well. And we also have to deal with education and Olympic education, and that is particularly my area. In our board, in our President's Committee, we also have a vice president who is dealing with equal opportunity for women and for diversity. And equal opportunities are really on the agenda for all our members in sport clubs and in sport federations. Youth sport also covers a very broad spectrum from recreational activity up to talent identification. Currently in Germany, we have approximately 9 million members as part of youth sports. And as you can imagine, we are dealing with a lot of finance aspects, and financing is provided by government. Basically, for high performance sport, it's a federal government in Germany that is supporting us, but we are also working in other areas with other governments, and I will say a few words about that. So the President's Committee has the task to do the strategic management and, of course, also communication, public relations, the media, and also international relations and communication with other countries. And therefore, I'm really happy that I can be part of your initiative here, because we're also looking for partnerships and for cooperation. And I hope that this will also be something that we can discuss later. Regarding high performance sports, we have, of course, Olympic training centers, that is for top athletes, but we also have Olympic support centers, and that is for younger people when we're talking about talent development and talent identification. We have, of course, also initiatives dealing with the Olympic Games, with European Games, with the Youth Olympic Games, and of course also the European Youth Olympic Festival. Very big focus, of course, is on this Olympic aspect, but I should also mention that we are dealing with non-Olympic federations and working together with education and science in various forms. When we discuss sport development, it is, of course, with a very, very strong focus on health and fitness, and also our cooperation with schools. So school sport, physical education in schools, in partnership with our sport clubs, that is something that is really very, very high on our agenda.
Madam,
and the integration.
Gudrun, ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, about the
Yes.
presentation slides, if you could just tell us when is the next, have you started with this, ma'am? Our presentation?
Yeah.
So if you can tell us,
I'm now with,
screen.
okay, I'm now with sports development.
With sports development.
Can you
Okay.
continue?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sports development.
Ah, super. Yeah. This is our mascot. Okay. The mascot is, this is Trimmy. And please continue.
Next. Pranesh, next.
Next. Yes.
Do you want to go to the next? Gudrun, we can't hear you. Gudrun, I think we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Gudrun. Gudrun, we can't hear you, ma'am. Unmute yourself. Please unmute. Yeah.
Youth Olympic Festival.
Can you see the screen, please?
Very big focus, of course, is on this Olympic aspect, but I should also mention that we are dealing with non-Olympic federations and working together with education and science in various forms.
Please unmute. Please unmute, ma'am. You need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute.
On health and fitness, and also our cooperation with schools. So school sport, physical education in schools, in partnership with our sport clubs, that is something that is really very, very high on our agenda. And the integration. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm now with sports development.
Next, please.
Can you?
Pranesh.
Yeah. This is our mascot. Okay. Continue.
Next.
Next. Yes. The next, please. Yes.
Sports development.
You can't hear me?
Next.
Oh, what has happened? Yeah, but what has happened? I didn't do anything.
No, we can hear you. No issues.
Can
Going
you
to
hear me?
We can hear you. We can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear me?
Yes, yes. We can hear you.
Can you put my voice back again?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What shall I do?
You can continue with sports development.
Moment.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please continue, ma'am. We can hear you. Please continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Share screen.
We can, your screen we can share. We can see the screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. Pranesh, can you just help in this case?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
What shall I do?
You can continue, ma'am. Continue, please.
Can you hear me now?
We can continue. Yes, ma'am. I think.
Ma'am, you can continue.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, ma'am. You can continue.
Can you hear me now?
I think she's a problem.
You hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes. No, you can
Can
continue.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Next.
Please continue.
You're going back. Go forward. Go forward. Sports development. Headline: Sports development. Now it's going back. Go forward.
Go to next.
Okay. Let's go to sports. Okay, sports development. Okay. Can you hear? So, I would like to. Yeah, I think it's really important. So, super. Okay. So, working in sports about sports and the environment. Thank you. I want to continue now with talk. Yeah, I speak. You hear? I speak.
Yes.
So, can you now?
Yes.
Yes. Now. Okay. Next thing. So very important. I do speak. Okay. Sports development. Headline: Cooperation between physical education. Now it's going back. A very important area for us is. I cannot hear you. I can hear you.
We can hear
hear
you.
you.
We can hear you. We can hear you, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay. Then we'll speak to sports development.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I think it's really important. Super. Okay. So working in. Thank you. I want to. I speak.
Yes.
Yes. Now. Okay. It's the cooperation between patient and. So very important. I speak. Okay. Okay, then I will continue.
Yes.
Super, I continue, okay?
Okay. Yes.
Very important German people with sport, also area age, also action sport. So you have generations car sport. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
A very important area of the German Olympic Sports Confederation is sport and health. Because as you all know, we need to improve the physical activity of all people, of all ages, people with disabilities. And we have a very important initiative that started some years ago that is having a focus on health promotion, prevention, and rehabilitation. And many of our sport clubs are related to these health topics. Many of our exercise instructors have a license, and they have a particular license, and that is currently 31,000 licenses for sports for rehabilitation. That is, for example, heart disease or diabetes and activities that are really meant to help these people to lead a health. Next slide, please.
Pranesh, next slide.
Next slide, please.
Yes, it's done.
This is a very interesting initiative that is a campaign as part of our physical activity initiatives, and that is called Physical Activity Against Cancer. And you see here the posters that we are putting all over Germany so that people are aware that physical activity and sport can also make contribution to people who are having cancer. The next one, please. Next slide. Over the past few years, we have worked together with both ministries of health and also private health agencies, and we are providing not only activities and licenses, but we give to certain sport clubs a quality seal, as you can see here. This is in cooperation with medical doctors, and we can give to sport clubs such a seal so that people know that it is a highest quality that they give in those that they get in those sport clubs. We also focus on psychosocial health. We want to reduce the risk factors, and also we want that people understand that it is important to improve exercise conditions. Maybe for some of you, it's maybe somewhat different, because in your sports system, you are maybe having not one umbrella organization, but in Germany, we are dealing with both with high performance sport, but also with health and rehabilitation. And I wanted to share this with you. Can I have the next slide, please? People are getting older and older. And now we have started a new initiative in Germany that is called Fit for 100. That means people who are around 100 years of age, they are also practicing sport. They want to be physically active. They want to be in groups together. They play table tennis. And this is now as a growing area in German sport, that people of age 80 plus 100, that they are also now involved in our sports system. Now coming to the next slide is German sports youth. As I said at the beginning, sport youth has a large number. Maybe it's again something that is typical for Germany, but when we are 4 or 5 years of age, almost everyone in our society joins a sport club. When I was young, when I was 5, I joined a sport club in gymnastics. Later, I was in athletics, later in handball and basketball. And then that is something that continues in Germany over all ages. We have a dropout rate. In fact, when it comes to the age of, let's say, 30 to 40, That is when people having families and they have also a lot of work to bind with their family involvement. And then after that, after 40 and 50, we have a growing number of people joining again in our sport clubs. But youth is very important, of course, for us to mention. Can I have the next slide, please? And again, this is a very interesting initiative. It's called the German Sports Badge. And it started already in 1913. So a few years ago, we celebrated 100 years of German Sports Badge. You can make certain sport activities at certain levels. It depends on your age, and female, male, whatever, or people with disabilities can join as well. And then, for example, in athletics, in cycling, in swimming, in gymnastics, you reach a certain level of performance, and then you get the badges in gold, in silver, and in bronze. And to tell you something about my family, when I was a child, my father, after coming from work, would always start running. And we were asking him, why do you do this every day? You're running and running. Why do you want to be so active? And he said, I want to have this German sports badge in gold. I have it in bronze, I have it in silver, but now it's time that I get it in gold. And so this was something when I was 5 or 6 years of age that I already experienced in my own family. Now doing with thousands of people in Germany, and they all can reach this badge. Now that I know, next slide, please. Now that I know that many of you are either trainers, coaches, but also physical education teachers, this is an area which we have developed in particular in Germany. There is a very close cooperation between the school system and the sports system. We have partnerships. Germany over the last years has introduced what we call all-day schooling. When I went to school, I started 8 o'clock in the morning and I was finished by 2 o'clock. But now when we talk about all-day schooling, that means young people are staying in school until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And so the sport clubs work together with the school system so that, for example, instructors and coaches from sport clubs can also come into the schools and they have an afternoon program with the school children. And you see this is something in different sports, like here in fencing. And that is also something where you can try to get an award or a prize, a school sport prize. And this was one of the groups that recently won this fencing group, where the school and the sport club, the fencing club, they work very closely together. And I think it's a really good example. Okay, now, can I have the next one, please? Yeah, that is, of course, an area of interest. And I know maybe Maria is also with us. How can we also ensure that people with different kinds of disabilities can also be part of our sport programs? And therefore, we have developed certain talent identification processes. We go into schools, we go into sport clubs, we also go into hospitals and rehabilitation centers. But what we really need, and sometimes this is really a challenge, is that we need qualified coaches, in particular for this area. And very often, as we are experiencing in other parts of the world, there is not really accessibility of sport facilities. We have, of course, some of the sport facilities that are really accessible for people who are blind or people in wheelchair, but this is something where Germany also has to make a lot more effort that we can offer accessibility sport facilities. We need also not only public funding, but also private funding, and we need to develop a pathway We need to develop processes where people with disabilities can be part of training and competition opportunities at different levels. Let me say a few words about the special features of high-performance disability sport. Basically, we're dealing with people with different kinds of disabilities, be it intellectual disability, physical disability, blind people, deaf people. But when it comes to high-performance sport, we're dealing with very small numbers, and that sometimes is a big challenge. We cannot really compare to so-called able-bodied sport. But we also have a very different age structure due to acquired impairments during the lifespan. When we are dealing with someone who had, for example, a motorcycle accident, a car accident, very often these people are beyond school age. They are maybe in their 20s, in their 30s. And how do we ensure that they can also be part of our sport opportunities? Then also, and that's really interesting, also from an international level, athletes with a disability tend to stay longer in top-level sport compared to able-bodied athletes. Sometimes they participate in 3 Paralympic Games. And for Olympic athletes, this is quite seldom. But for athletes with a disability, it can happen quite a lot. And we also have athletes with a disability who compete both in summer and in winter sports. Again, this is really quite unusual. Anyway, this is a very, very important area of our work currently in German sport. Can I have the next slide, please? And I know that in some countries we have increasingly inclusive education, inclusion in schools. In earlier years, we had schools like special schools for children and young people with different disabilities. In Germany, we're moving towards inclusive schools, and we are following what the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities says. That, again, is a good development for society, but for our coaches who are trying to find talents, sometimes this is a challenge. Because in the past, children, young people with disabilities were in separate schools. So the coach and the instructor could go into special schools and maybe identify talents. Now they have to go to all schools, and maybe in one inclusive school, they will identify only one talent. So that's something where our coaches and our instructors, they sometimes are kind of complaining about the situation, but in general, we want, of course, that we are open our schools for all people of all kinds of backgrounds. And of course, we have also a lot of people, not just with disabilities, but we have people from other cultures who are living here in Germany, and they also should be given the same opportunity like everybody else. Can I have the next one, please? A project that I did together with my colleague Sabine Radke, and we published it in different languages, in particular, of course, in German and in English language, was a comparison how other countries are identifying athletes with a disability or persons with a disability. And we did it for Canada, for United Kingdom, United States, and Germany. And it would be something maybe also for the future to think about other countries to be included into such a comparative study. That, of course, is something we can put on our agenda for the next months and years to come. Next slide, please. The next one is that we have developed in the German Olympic Sports Confederation a strategy for inclusion. And you have to imagine that since we are such a number of organizations, we know the different organizations in Germany I am the chairperson of this working group on inclusion, and we want to ensure that all people, whatever their disability is, whatever their cultural background is, have access to sport. And this is what I have listed here. We want to empower people with disabilities. We want to improve the qualifications. I've mentioned already accessibility, but accessibility is not only related to facilities and venues, but it's also about access to information. And as you know, we have, for example, papers being translated into easy to understand language, because for some people, the documents that we are producing are too difficult to understand. And therefore, it's really important to use easy to understand language so that we can share it. And this has been a very effort in particular, and I wanted to mention this later, but Berlin and Germany, the host of the Special Olympics World Summer Games in 2020. I can take this opportunity here already to invite you to Berlin and Germany in 3 years. And because of Special Olympics, we are now producing a lot of material in easy to understand language. And we want, of course, also to organize sport events. We want more networking, increased media coverage, and we want to have a monitoring and evaluation system in place so that we understand why something is successful and why something is not working well. Okay, now I come to almost the final part, and that is the German Olympic Academy. Can I have the next slide, please? We have started many years ago in 2007 in creating the German Olympic Academy, and we've given it the name. He was one of the sport leaders in Germany for many years, and in 2007 in Frankfurt we established the German Olympic Academy. What is this academy doing? Can I have the next slide, please? We are organizing the German Olympic Youth Camp during Olympic Games. We also organize seminars for teachers, professors of sports science, and then, of course, we also organize camps on various occasions. The picture on the right-hand side down there is a very interesting one, because after 50 years, 50 years, we invite all medal winners of Olympic Games. You can imagine some of them are quite old. In particular, when someone, for example, won a medal in shooting or archery, sometimes they did this when they were 40, and now 50 years later, they are 90 years of age. And they all come together. You see here the picture of the Olympic medalists, and we are now preparing for the next ceremony, and that will be in 2022, when we celebrate 50 years of the Olympic Games in Munich, which were held in 1972. And I was a volunteer in 1972 in Munich. I had finished my studies in physical education, and I was responsible for the British student delegation, and I took them to the Olympic Games. I took them also to Berlin, and I could show them my hometown. Okay, let's go to the next one. Next slide, please. So the German Olympic Academy is a small group of people, but we organize, for example, the Olympic Day. You know, just a few days ago, on the 23rd of June, was Olympic Day. We celebrate all over the world. And we also produce teaching material for all schools and kindergartens. This is an agreement with the Ministry of Education, that we can send our material, teaching material about Olympic values, the Olympic movement, the Paralympic movement. We can send it to all kindergartens and schools in Germany. You can imagine this is a very, very big initiative. And this year, because of COVID-19 pandemic, we have changes. So we can look at the next one. Next slide, please. Initiative. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay. Now, we had to change our program. Normally, we together with 3,000, 4,000 children, school children. Next slide, please. Okay, program. Normally, we together school children at the German Olympic Board, and therefore we did Olympic Day. And the motto was move, learn, discover. And we did not only celebrate one day, but we are celebrating the whole week. So today it's still continuing. On the 26th of June, we're still celebrating this digital Olympic week. And you see here some examples. We did some run. On the right-hand side, when it says Olympia ruft, this is Olympia is calling, you can join. And so all school children and teachers in Germany from this week on have access to this material. What you see here is the printed material. It is also online. Teacher, every instructor in Germany can access this material. We're currently discussing maybe to do it also in a shortened version in other languages, but now currently it's of course in German language only. Okay, let me go to the next. That is international development and cooperation. As you can imagine, Germany has many partners in other parts of the world, and we are interested in telling this because we want also to have more people involved in joint projects. This can be in practical terms, but it can also be in educational or scientific areas. And maybe I can give that next picture to you. Next slide. These are just a few examples. And when I mention here sport for development, that's something different like sport development. We are using sport as a tool. We want to cooperate with partners around the world, and it's basically with a focus on social development and peace. In Germany, I know it's different in other countries, but in Germany, we're dealing again with government. It's the federal government, and they are supporting our initiatives. For example, when it comes to HIV/AIDS, also the empowerment of girls and young women. We also work in the area of youth leadership camps, sometimes in Germany, but sometimes also outside Germany. We also are a member of a working group called Sport for Development, and we celebrate not only the Olympic Day on the 23rd of June, but also on the 6th of April, the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. And again, I'm really interested to learn more also from you, where we can maybe also share some of the experiences and initiatives that you are doing. I would be happy to hear more about this from your side. Now, I would like to come to a close with my final slide. So here is my closing words. As I mentioned already, Germany and Berlin are hosting the Special Olympics World Summer Games in the year 2023. And for those who are not so familiar with this program, I have to say that Special Olympics has really changed a lot over the last decades. There is a huge program called Unified Sports, where with and without disability are part of one team. This can be, for example, in tennis or table tennis or in basketball, volleyball. I've been to the last Special Olympics World Games in 2015 in Los Angeles and in 2019 in Abu Dhabi. And I can only report to you, this is a an amazing event that is not only a sport event, but it's also a health event, because they have a program called Healthy Athletes, where medical doctors on a volunteer basis are examining all the athletes and trying to identify if they have some kind of a health problem. Either it's dentists working there or orthopedic doctors. And this is something that is very, very special. And I can tell you that we are now putting up a program that is called 170 Nations, because in 2023 we are expecting 170 nations sending a Special Olympics team to Germany. But prior to the competition, there will be an opportunity for all these nations to come to Germany and have a visit in one part of Germany. It can be at the Atlantic Ocean, it can be in the mountains of Bavaria, but each nation sending a team, a Special Olympics team to Germany, will have an opportunity to be hosted by one community in Germany. And you can imagine now, it's amazing how many communities have already raised their hands and said, we would like to have someone send the team. And smaller communities, they can maybe host a small team, but communities, bigger communities that can host, for example, the team from the United States, from Canada. And so this is something we are currently preparing. And I would like to close my presentation with an invitation to all of you to really share experiences and ideas with me. And I would like to really increase our efforts towards closer cooperation. Thank you very much. Dankeschön.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. Ma'am, could you just come on your video? Pranesh, you can stop sharing the slides, please.
Just my video starten. Is it okay? Can you see me now?
No.
No? Mein Video
Can you help
starten.
Pranesh,
I've
please.
started my video.
Okay. It's
My
okay.
video.
Ma'am, there are a few questions. It's okay. Can I just ask the questions in the meantime?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. One of the questions put forth was by Senin Long Kumar. He had mentioned that there are more than 90,000 sports clubs in Germany. He'd like to know how these clubs are functioning, who monitors these clubs, and what are the advantages of having sports clubs. I think there are a lot of questions they put across.
Yeah, okay.
About the sports club, ma'am.
Yeah. Sports clubs in Germany can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, because here is very bad weather, very, very bad weather. We have rain right now. And okay, sports clubs, very long tradition in Germany. Sport clubs started already in the 19th century. In 1860, we had gymnastics clubs in Germany. And so we have a very, very long tradition. But these sport clubs are run by volunteers. Sometimes there is administration that has paid staff, but most of our instructors are volunteers. So that's why the sport clubs have a long tradition, but some of them are really offering programs that are grassroots. Some of the sport clubs, and some of them have more funding available, they are also including athletes at highest level. So they are offering also high performance sport activities. Then they have to work together with the Olympic training centers all over Germany. And the sport clubs are also supported, of course, by membership fee, but the fees are very, very low. For example, I pay per month to go to the sport club 10 euro, but in case I would not be able to cover the 10 euro per month, then I would get support also from the government. The government wants people to be active in sport clubs and supports also membership. But in general, it's not something like you would maybe think of like a golf club or something where you have to pay very, very high fees. This is not the case in Germany.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, there's yet another question with regard to the batches mentioned of the batch, the sports batches. So what are the criteria of achieving these batches? You mentioned for batch, remember? There are 3 silver, bronze and gold batches and medals, which, can you hear me?
Yes?
They're asking what are the criteria? Like you said, you need a benchmark or to attain
Yes.
the silver batch or the gold batch.
Yes.
The German sports badge.
Yes, of course. The German sports badge is something where we have a list of what kind of levels of performance you have to reach. For example, you have to run the 1,000 meters under 3 minutes or something. You have to reach a certain level, but it also depends, are you female or male? Are you, which age are you? Are you a senior citizen? Are you, let's say, 70 years of age? It depends if you are having a disability. So this is taken into consideration, and we have full lists for all age groups, for female and male, for children, and so we can use it depending, for example, on the age also when we are inviting schools to participate. So many schools in Germany in summertime, they also organize this sports badge event. And last year, of course, this year we had to cancel, but last year I attended several of fests and met 3,000, 4,000 young people coming together in one place to reach of performance and then get the sport badge. Limited to young people. It's open to everyone.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for this. With regard to the school PE period in a week, like what about the physical education classes and the period allocation for the in a school? In the middle school, how many periods do they have for PE? Do you have any idea, ma'am, what that?
Yes, of course. I think that we have in general 3 lessons of physical education in primary school and in secondary school. It is a concern of us that it's not always really given these classes, because sometimes physical education classes are put at the end of the school day. And sometimes, for example, because of hot weather, children are sent home because it's too hot to go to school. And then what is missing is physical education. So we are always negotiating with the government. And just yesterday evening, I had a meeting with all the ministers in Germany responsible for education and physical education. And we mentioned that in this pandemic, we are now very worried that even if children are going back to school, that physical education will be forgotten. And we insist that physical education is as important as it is in other subjects. And we want to make sure that when for us now, it's the beginning of the summer vacation, but when children and young people return to school, we want to make sure that physical education classes are being offered again. We understand that we have to follow the rules of health and hygiene, but it is possible, for example, to do some physical activity outdoors if it's not possible in a closed venue. But it's a concern. It's a concern.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. One of the major challenges that we have here is most of the physical education is not considered as a priority or as a subject. It's considered an extracurricular. Most of the parents insist in them to take up the academics, which are of more importance, such as science, mathematics, or so. So what are the ways, what strategies could you suggest by which we could get them, we could convince the parents and see that the children could get into sport and physical activity?
It's always difficult, I think, to give advice to somebody else. But I can tell you that for us in Germany, physical education is part of the regular curriculum. It's not something that is happening outside, but it's part of curriculum. It's also when you get your credits, it's part of the credit system. So of course, it's also important to mention that we have physical education teachers who also are teaching other subjects. Maybe this is an important point to make here, because, for example, I'm a physical education teacher, but in my past, but I studied English. So when I worked at school, for the teachers, for the other teachers, for the principals, but also for the parents, it was very clear that I am not just a physical education teacher, but I'm also an English teacher. And that, I think, is very helpful, because then it shows a teacher in physical education can also be a teacher in physics or mathematics or chemistry. And maybe it's more convincing also to the school principals that they are aware of the role of physical education in the school system. But I understand that sometimes parents are also giving more interest in academic skills, and because this is maybe the future, but if for their children in professional life. But I'm convinced that those of us who are physically active, we can also perform intellectually much better. Because if I'm always sitting as a couch potato, I cannot imagine that my intellectual abilities will grow. So we have to show that there is a close connection between the brain and between the body, and that we also, I think, have to ensure that all people are aware of the importance of physical activity. We know a lot about the inactivity that we are facing in many parts of the world. More and more people are suffering from all kinds of diseases. The World Health Organization has mentioned this. Many other organizations have also stressed the importance of physical activity. But where can we do it the best, if not in schools? Because this is where we have all young people together. We cannot force them to be a member of a sport club. But when it's part of education in schools, that is where we can reach out to all of them. And I think this is a message that I think we should share. And I understand that some are disappointed that it's not sometimes so well accepted. I'm fully aware of this, but I would also say to the teachers, be aware how important your work is. Instructors and teachers, physical education teachers, play an important role, and they should not make themselves small. They should show that they make a very important contribution to the overall development of young people, and they really a crucial role in this process. So they should be proud of what they are doing, even if someone says, the intellectual abilities is more important. I think both aspects are really important, and they go hand in hand.
Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful. May I request Darling Kluka, please.
Gudrun, I am very grateful that you have been able to join this historical effort and event. Also, the way in which you have described what goes on in Germany has been very enlightening, I'm sure, for many of us. My question to you is, all of this takes money to be connected and to link this group with that group, etc. And so many of us can make linkages for things, but the volunteer aspect or the no money aspect, what can we do with no money, only goes so far. Do you have a feeling or an idea about how to get the funding to also go with these wonderful potentials for linkages?
Thank you, Darlene. Great to see you and to hear you. Yeah, I think you're mentioning a very important aspect, and that is the economic and financial aspect. And I think we have to make a distinction here between the school system, at least in Germany. The school system is fully supported and funded by government. And we are having a different situation when it comes to our sports system, because there we have to work together with different agencies, corporate sector, with the governmental agencies. We see an increased interest in working with sport. Just to give you an example, we're working with the Federal Ministry of Social Affairs and Work, and we have told them how important it is that people with disabilities also acquire skills so that they can work as managers in the sports system. We've received funding, more than 3 million euro to do this project, and we were able, with this government money, to bring people with disabilities into regular work. Because sometimes, as you know, people with disabilities are not having the opportunity to work on the what is called first job market. But this is now something, and with this World Games or Special Olympics coming up, we told the ministry we need more funding so that people with disabilities develop also organizational skills. We will need thousands of people. And where will they come from? Maybe you can send some. But what we also need is, in our own country, more people to also have those skills and qualifications, maybe even licenses. And the government, this government said, yes, go ahead and do it. And once you have, let's say, some amount of money in your hand, then you can also go to the corporate sector and say, see, the government has an interest, and it would be good for you also to join. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I would never give up, as you know. Huh?
Vielen Dank.
Bitte schön.
Yeah. Yeah. So, darling, thank you. Rosa, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, of course. It's always a great pleasure to listen to Gudrun. She has this ability to give such wonderful explanations, and I really, really enjoyed having this view of the German sports system. So thank you very much for that. Now, and the other important thing is that you have had the experience of working in different areas, which is fantastic. And what's going on with Special Olympics and all the programs in place, excellent. And I mean, I wish you can have a wonderful event, and with that opportunity for people going there to Germany and sharing and being hosted. I think this is one of the greatest idea to make all communities be involved in one of the games. I think this is fantastic. Now, there's one program that you mentioned that I would like to know a bit more, because I think this idea of the, the medals and making it inclusive to everybody, and the story you mentioned about your father, I think this is fantastic. So could you give much more details about that, Gudrun? And particularly if, for example, the media, how does it help to make the information get to everybody? Because in order to get all the population involved, we need support. It's not just, from the education system or the sports system, but maybe the media is also supporting. So how did you manage? How it has grown through the years?
Of course, when I mentioned my father and this sports badge, that was 50, 60 years ago. But now we have social media. And when I talked about the Olympic Day, Olympic Digital Day a few days ago, I think we were able to provide information over all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc., etc. But we also, and I did not say that before, but in German sport we have our own television channel. That is called Sport Deutschland. It's like Sports Germany, as it is our own TV channel, and we can, of course, provide information for all people. Last Friday, for example, awards were given to schools who were very active in cooperation with sport clubs, and we had 10 winning schools and clubs. We could not do it live, but we did it again digital. And I followed this on TV Germany, a sport channel at home. So I think we can maybe use more the social media and all kinds of media to send out the messages and also the pictures. I think it's not only message, it's pictures, so that people are really attracted and are getting really up-to-date information, and they can also respond to it. They can also make comments. And we had a great audience, not being present in Frankfurt, but from all over Germany on this sport channel of the German Olympic Sports Confederation. I think also the IOC has this Olympic channel, and from time to time I also use this, but I think it would be interesting to see what the responses are, and if it's really, I mean, we had a big debate, how much would it cost to install such a TV station, but I think it's really successful, and in Germany people are really happy to have it.
Okay, thank you. Danke, very good.
Muchas gracias.
De nada.
De nada, de nada.
Thank you, Rosa. Yeah. We can't hear you, Gudrun. We can't hear you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You can't hear me?
Yes.
And now, yeah. We can't hear you, Gudrun.
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Yeah, now we can hear. It's fine.
Good.
Beatrice? Yeah.
Hello, Gudrun. It's very good to see you. Congratulations for your presentation. It's very important.
Hi. Hey.
Hi. And
Hi.
and it's very important to update with the sport Germany, because you see that I've had a lot of influence in Brazil. Since back in the 70s, it's amazing how the connection of Germany and Brazil. And when you talk about unified sports, I think it's a wonderful way to go for humanity. It's amazing, the inclusion. And more specific, I would like to know if in Germany you have financial support for sports that are not part of the Paralympic family, such as wheelchair sport dance. You see, in Brazil, at least, the sports that are in the Olympic Games or Paralympic Games, they receive money from the government, but not those that are not in the family, like wheelchair dance sport. It's very difficult to develop here in Brazil. I would like to know about Germany.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you. Hi.
Hi.
I think that the sport structures differ a lot in our countries. And when I, in the beginning of my presentation, said that we have an umbrella organization for all sport, that really means all sports. Under the umbrella of the German Olympic Sports Confederation, we have Paralympic sport, we have Special Olympics, we have Deaf Olympics, deaf sport. So it's all under one umbrella, and financial assistance is given to all of them. Of course, it depends if they have championships, world championships, or participating in Paralympic Games and Deaf Olympics. But for example, deaf athletes, when they go to Deaf Olympics, they are financially supported by German government. And the same is true for athletes with a disability. They are members of the German Disability Sport Organization, which is a national Paralympic committee of Germany. And they are also supported by German government. So we have a I think we have a very strong support from government. I know it's different in other countries, but we do not make a distinction between a Paralympic athlete or deaf athlete. Special Olympics is different because in the past, the Special Olympics was kind of separate. They belonged to our organization, but they were kind of in a separate group. Now they have moved into the category of non-Olympic sports organizations. And for example, for the Special Olympics World Games, the Federal Ministry of the Interior, the City of Berlin, and Special Olympics together are ready to provide, I think, 85 million euro, and 1/3 out of the 85 is coming from the ministry, the federal ministry, and 1/3 is coming from the City of Berlin. So basically 2/3 are government money, and the rest is maybe corporate sector, etc. But that's a very different situation compared to your situation, I think.
For sure. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Maria,
Basically, 2/3 are government.
Maria, can you?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really, hopefully that this time it works, the connection. And I also thank Gudrun very much that she had a nice presentation. Although that the communication is always retarding, so we probably hear her later on. I wanted to mention also that as Gudrun was as well president of the International Council for Sports Science and Physical Education, as well as IFAPA, International Federation of Adapted Physical Activity. I think she has really the power to integrate everything in sport and physical activity. And I tried to do similar, but not in the same quality, of course. But what I would like to mention in the name of IXPE is that, of course, in Germany next year, there is this big German gymnastic festival, and IXPE will have meetings and a symposium there. So in this regard, I think it would be also nice to invite people from around the world also to come to this festival and to our IXPE symposium, where we are intending to invite people from Africa, and probably also India is interested to come here. And I like Gudrun to congratulate to your presentation, that also invite you. Of course, you will be there in Leipzig next year, hopefully, so that we can see each other earlier than 23. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We could hear you today speaking.
Okay.
Dr. Kishore sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ma'am Gudrun, for the excellent session. Very informative about, since you are spearheading the Olympic, German Olympic Academy and as chairperson, and also Olympic Confederation as vice president. I think I just wanted to know about how the German Olympic Confederation is linked with the official sports ministry. Is it affiliated and a grant affiliation and financial assistance, etc., for your various sporting activities? So it is managed independently in Germany. That is one.
I'm sorry, I could not get. It's kind of broken. Can you repeat, or can someone?
Yeah.
I could not get your question.
Repeat it, man. We would like to know how about the German Olympic Confederation, Olympic Sports Confederation, and its linked license with the Sports Ministry of Germany. How is it connected? About is it affiliated or with the Sports Ministry of Germany? And do you get financial assistance? If so, how many sports disciplines? And what is the license or the relation which you maintain with the government in Germany, with the Olympic body?
Okay, thank you for your question. As I mentioned earlier, I think the sports structures in our countries differ a lot. In Germany, we have a station where we have the German Olympic Sports Confederation being a non-government body, and we work together, of course, with government. Germany has no sport minister. Germany, the Minister of the Interior is at the same time also responsible for sport, but only for high-performance sport. That means that the German Olympic Sports Confederation, when it comes to high-performance sports, gets all the money from the Ministry of the Interior. Our Minister of the Interior is at the same time like a sport minister, but Germany has no sport minister. But when it comes to different regions, states of Germany, then we have, of course, regional ministers that are responsible for education, culture, and they also provide funding for the. When it comes, for example, to the games, Paralympic Games, again, Germany responsibility for finances is with the Minister of the Interior, the Federal Minister of the Interior. We do not have, and that's maybe sometimes being discussed, should Germany also have a sport minister, or is it better to have a minister responsible for the interior also serving at the same time as a sport minister? So that's a different situation compared to, for example, to your country, but the relations to our ministries, both on federal and state level, are very good. But we are not only dealing with this one ministry, and we work together, of course, with government. Germany has no sport minister. Germany, the Minister of the Interior is at the same time also responsible for sport, but only for high-performance sport. That means that the German Olympic Sports Confederation, when it comes to high-performance sports, gets all the money from the Ministry of the Interior. Our Minister of the Interior is at the same time like a sport minister, but Germany has no sport minister.
Yes, ma'am.
But when it comes to different regions, states of Germany, then we have, of course, regional ministers that are responsible for education, culture, and they also provide funding for the. When it comes, for example, to the games, Paralympic Games, again, Germany responsibility for finances is
The voice is breaking, ma'am.
with the Minister of the Interior, the Federal Minister of the Interior.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you,
We
ma'am.
do not have, and that's maybe sometimes being discussed, should Germany also have sport minister, or is it better to have a minister responsible for the interior, also serving at the same situation compared to, for example, to your country and state level are very good, but we're dealing with 16 ministers in the different states of Germany. And we're dealing, when it comes, for example, to people with disabilities, we're dealing with the Federal Minister of Social Affairs. So the structure, to describe the structure, maybe helps to better understand the situation in any other country.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Oh, just one more thing, one more remark which would like from you. You have mentioned about physical education and sports. You have mentioned about physical education and sports in Germany, the historical and current. So would you like to offer some remarks about the future in Germany and the world, about the field, how it will go ahead? The future trends in Germany in physical education and sports, there everything is getting transformed, modernized, and so on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So can you put some remarks about?
Usha, are there more questions?
We can hear you. Kishore sir has asked, what do you say of the future? You discussed about the past, present. What do you expect for the future in terms of the sport in Germany?
And world.
And the world. Ma'am, can you hear us?
Yeah, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, you cannot hear. Ma'am, there was one question.
I cannot hear you.
Now, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Do you have questions?
Yeah, there was one question.
Usha, do you have more?
Yeah, we had a question, but can you hear me? I think we have a problem.
I can't hear you.
It's okay, ma'am. I will just put it in chat and we'll put it across to you.
I cannot hear you.
Go out.
Maria, what did you say?
I said Gudrun should stop her communication and then start again to join the meeting. If you can hear me, Gudrun, can you stop and start again? To come into the meeting.
She has to leave.
Okay. Do you think I'm hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So I think
yes. Yeah, I can hear you, but do you hear? Okay. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Okay.
There was one question.
Yes.
Is
about the future.
The future. Future for
yes, I can hear you.
German, but for the world.
I cannot hear you. It's I cannot hear any voice. I see Usha. I see your face, but it stops.
Sorry.
It doesn't move.
Can you hear me?
Maria?
Can you hear me, Gudrun?
Yeah, but it's also Maria. It's also broken.
No.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes,
super.
we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Yes, of course, it's very important to say about the future. I heard the question. I think that we also help each other in finding good reasons. You now. Hear you.
I think
Speak. Rosa, it's important that we are building networks together. So also learn each other, assist each other. Also, I think data. And you remember then years ago, we did a wide survey, education. I think it's a data. We cannot say, oh, our situation is bad. They will always ask for facts. And what facts do we have? And therefore, I think it's very important not only to have networks of physical education people, but also the people in the academic area to work together with us so that we can bring results and that we have really evidence-based information. And that I'm sure in the future will help us to make sure that physical education and sport will have its place where it has to be and is not going like something that is forgotten.
Thank you very much.
yes, we know because I was told the weather conditions are very bad right now. This is what Gudrun ma'am had said, because of the trial it was wet on clear. And I think we can't see ma'am. On behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Hello India, we need to thank Gudrun ma'am, because indeed it's an honor that in this particular PE program we could get such an eminent personality who had come in, and each of the words were lessons for us. For instance, you said that you have certification in terms of, we talk of health, wellness certification, which we are yet to start with. You said for different problems like diabetes or cancer. I think these are certain things we have to think of. Secondly, license for the health clubs. I think that's a wonderful thing which you have said. We only have for the pharmacy, but I don't know whether we can implement those. 100 years, you have come in with a program where all till 80 to 100 are getting into an exercise program. And the best part is you've got about all the Olympic medalists together. That's a great achievement where you're getting all the Olympic medalists together after 50 years coming onto a platform. So I think that each of your words is so valuable, and we should bring it in a form of a history. So thank you, ma'am, so much. On behalf of all those present here, I think it's a standing ovation to you. It's a standing ovation because it was wonderful. And it's been so nice to have you with us. I think it's a great honor for this PE program on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Government of India. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I know you're so busy in spite of that you spared your valuable time, and I'm sure that we look forward to cooperation from you in the future. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable presence.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dankeschön.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
I also like to thank.
Bye bye.
I'd like to thank Dr. Kluka. I'd like to thank Dr. Kluka. Our program is not yet over. You were asking me today, and I really need to tell Gudrun, Kluka, Rosa, our panelists have been regularly attending from 1st of June to the 26th till today. We find them, they are always there supporting this particular movement. And thank you so much for your support, Kluka. Thank you, Dr. Rosa. You are the one who introduced Gudrun to us. But I'm sure it's because of you, you could get Madam to this platform. Thank you so much, Rosa. I'd like to thank Maria. Today we could hear you. Thank you so much for your valuable words and presence. Beatrice, thank you so much. Thank you, Kishore sir, because I'm sure we could learn a lot from today's session. And I'd like to thank all the invited guests and the participants. Once again, thank you so much, and a namaste. Thank you, namaste. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I knew you had
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.